Hi, everybody. This is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to my introductory lecture for IS430 in the spring of 2024. And I just want to mention here that in the weekly schedule, in the link right before this, there's a link to my video on how to play my videos, tips and tricks. And the tip and trick is really to play them faster because my presentation rate is not particularly fast. So if you haven't played that yet, stop here and then go do that, and please come back. All right, so what are we doing today in this introduction? Well, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about just a few important facts about the course to kind of set the tone. I'm going to review our Canvas site. We're going to review a document that we call the course roadmap. Uh, I'm going to review some of our weekly schedule. Okay, our weekly schedule has all of the details about what we're going to do in each week. It's the same information that's in the roadmap, but it's much more detailed. So, having gone over the roadmap, I'm just going to give you the starter basics of the weekly schedule. And then I'm going to review the syllabus, and uh, you're expected to read the syllabus. I'm not going to talk about every word of it, but I am going to give the highlights and point out the things that you need to pay particular attention to. And then I'm going to wrap up with a section called Get Started. Okay, so I'm Kevin Trainer. If you want to know more about me, a good place to go is to my faculty page at the iSchool. And that has some brief information about me, but also has some links to things like my resume and my LinkedIn page and things like that. And also, there's a link here to the website for my little consulting firm called Ligent, and that has a lot of information on it too. Okay, so there is a lot of detail available, right? And we're gonna leave you to it. I've been teaching at the iSchool for, well, since 2008, so that's going on 16 years. Most of that time I was an adjunct and I was doing other things, consulting and teaching full time at the iSchool in Milwaukee. But for the last 3 years and 3.5 years, I've been teaching full time here at the iSchool. And this is a place where I love to teach, so I'm very happy to be here. I teach primarily hands on practical courses related to IT topics. So I teach this course, which is a first course in programming using Python. Um, I teach IS455, which is a database design and prototyping. That's kind of a first course for relational databases. I teach IS446, which is systems analysis. I teach um, IS439, which is web development using application frameworks. I teach IS597 MLC, which is uh, machine learning for the cloud. And I sometimes also teach a project management course. So I teach a whole lot of courses. They're mostly practical. Um, I spent most of my career time in industry in consulting and doing all kinds of things. But one thing I really loved to do was to develop information systems solutions for clients, or to teach people how to do that, or to manage people who did that. And now, in the late stages of my overall career, what I'd love to do is to teach folks like you who are just learning to do that now. So this is what I'd love to do. I do these things all the time to keep my hand in, and these courses are usually a lot of fun to me. I'm glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to working with you and getting to know you too. A few important facts about the course. So this course is a first course in programming using Python 3. Python 2 is pretty much dead, although the Python 2 people would not admit to that. So Python 3 is just really Python these days. Um, we're assuming that you don't have any programming background at all, or if you do have some, it's old enough that you need to start over again. People at the iSchool who have a programming background already, who want to take a first course in programming, we usually have take IS430 PR with John Weibel, which would be kind of the next programming course in a series, if there is a series. The approach that I take to the course uses the flipped classroom model, which is to say, I don't lecture in class except on a couple of rare occasions. I typically record the lectures like the one that you're playing here. And then we do a lot of activities in the classroom because we have time to do that, because you're not listening to me lecture. And I find that works well, and I think that you're going to like it too. This is a hands-on course where you learn by doing. So there are a lot of programming assignments that you're going to do. In fact, there are 14 programming assignments that we do on a weekly basis. And then there's a final project. There are some people who are taking the course for 2 credits. They don't do the final project. And most people or certainly a lot of people take the course for 4 credits, and they do the final project. The 4 credit version of the course where you do the final project is a really good deal because you're certainly not doing twice the work. Far from it. So if you have the funds and you have the available credits to take this course for 4 credits, that's what I recommend that you do. And if you signed up for 2 and you want to change, you can change. A lot of the coding exercises have complementary tutorial videos, which allows you to see me do that kind of a programming exercise before you have to do it on your own. I don't show you how to do exactly the thing that you're going to do, but something that looks very much like it. One important thing to keep in mind for the course is we want you to spend the time to do your work independently. This means we want you to create your own code without copying it from somewhere, without joint authorship, or without getting your code, for instance, from Chat GPT or from some new kind of AI-oriented programming system. Why do we do that? Well, we think that's how you learn. Okay. So it is okay to consult with any of these things. Okay. So it's okay to consult with books. It's okay to consult with classmates. It's okay to consult with family and friends. It's okay to consult with the web and look at places like Stack Overflow, and there are a lot of great Python tutorial sites. And it's also okay to consult with Chat GPT. But what's important is after you've done all that consulting and thinking and talking, you've got to turn around and you have to write the code yourself. Oddly enough, the act of typing the code in yourself is a way that a lot of programming instructors, myself especially, we believe that that's an important aspect of how you learn to program. Okay, it's just really reinforcing. So that's some key facts. So let's take a look at our Canvas site. You've probably already seen it, and let's go there. Okay, so at the top we have the top three most recent announcements. Um, then we've got these content boxes are called in Canvas terms. Um, they're called modules. And the layout of my Canvas pages for my courses is a little different than the stock layout that they give you at the iSchool. So it might be a little different, but each of these modules is a content grouping, and we've got four. This is the way I lay out all of my courses. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that reminds me, I should click on the student view so you see. So I'm showing you what you're going to see. Okay, so you've got the announcements. So the top level section has uh, just the kind of important information about the course that it's important to get to quickly. Has a link to the syllabus. So if you click through here and then click again, you'll come to the syllabus. And the syllabus is a file that's on a website. So if I change the syllabus, this link will, first of all, whenever I change the content for the course, I make an announcement here on Canvas in the announcements forum. And then when you access the syllabus the next time, if we change the syllabus to update something, well then um, you'll get the new content. Okay. Um, and we'll review the syllabus in due course here. The weekly schedule, we have a link to that. And the weekly schedule is a web application that holds the detail of all the content related to what we're doing in each of the weeks. And we're going to get to that in due course as well. Okay, and we'll review that. We have a link here. Please set your preferred name uses the student using the student self-service application. Quite a few people don't use the name that's in the university systems for them. It's either they don't go by their first name, um, they have a nickname that they use. Uh, Maybe you're an international student and you've decided that it's going to be easier for everybody if you've picked an Americanized kind of name that you want to use while you're here. Whatever the reason why you might be using another first name, uh, read this here, click through on the link, and when you change it, it will change your first name as it appears in Canvas and Zoom. Okay? Uh, And then we'll get the opportunity to call you what you prefer to be called, which I think is a respectful thing to do. Okay? So that's what we're doing there. So do that sooner rather than later. We have a section here, iSchool quick links. I got this from the iSchool probably 2 years ago. I did update. It used to have a link to the iSchool wiki, and all the university wikis, I think, have gone past their support date, and we're putting all of our information on um, iSchool Connect. So in the current semester, I updated that, but the rest of the links remain the same. I checked them all out. They all seem to go to where they claim to go. Okay. Um, Open discussion forum. Okay, so open discussion forum is a way for you folks to communicate with each other. Okay, the TA and I will monitor this and we may contribute from time to time. But if you need to get our attention to get help, well, we want you to use the help desk for this course, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, um, but this is a great place just to go to share things with your classmates. Okay, and it's available for you to do so. Zoom meetings. Okay. Since this is an online course, all the meetings we're going to have are Zoom. And Wednesday evenings, we have class sessions. And then on Sunday mornings at 10, we have an optional lab session where you're able to join us. And I'll be talking about the details on those soon, but this is where you find each of these. And typically the one that you want is the one that's on the very top because the expired ones go away. Okay. The next section has to do with the instructor and the TA and how to get in touch with us and to work with us. So it's called a contact us. The first item under it is instructor and TA details. So I'm Kevin Trainer. Okay. Um, the TA for our course is Yilu Tang. Yilu's been a TA for the IS430 course. This is at least the third semester that he's doing that with me. It might be his fourth. So he's an old hand at this and very good at working with and helping the students for this particular course. We do not hold conventional open office hours. Okay. Instead, we invite you to come to these optional online labs, which I'll give you more information on soon. If you need to have an individual appointment, though, because you want to talk about something confidential or it's the kind of thing that we need to talk about individually, use the help desk, which I'm going to explain in just a minute, and put in a request for an individual meeting and specify if you're trying to set up a meeting with me or Yilu, or possibly if you don't have a preference. And then we'll set up an individual meeting on Zoom. Okay? So that's how we're going to handle that. So using the help desk for this course, we don't use our regular email. Okay? We also don't use Canvas messaging. Historically, I have people who are trying to send me messages on Canvas. I don't even know where to find the messages on Canvas, and I don't particularly want to know. Okay. If you send me emails, they'll get lost. Okay. If you use this help desk, um, number one, your requests or your requests for helps or your question or whatever, they're not going to go away until they're resolved. Okay. One problem with emails is even when they don't get lost, um, they they just get down the list and they get forgotten about. Okay. Um, Another thing is Yilo and I coordinate to make sure that the right person is helping you, and we can pass a ticket back and forth. Okay. So, if you want to know about the help desk, more generally, you can click on the link about Trainer Help Desk. Okay. And if you're ready to create a ticket, which we do just by sending an email. So you communicate with the ticket system just by sending emails to the ticket system and receiving them back. There's no logging in, there's no passwords, there's no usernames, there's none of that stuff. And so if you want to create a ticket here, there's a link that tells you how to compose the email to create the ticket and get started. Okay? And of course, if you have questions, you can talk about that when we come to lab. We'll get you squared away. All right? So that's how to communicate with us. I've been using some help desk or other for about 10 years, and we've been using this one since the end of the summer. And this one is certainly as good as, or I think, better than all the other ones that we've used. And I'm very optimistic that it's going to be going to be easy for you to use, and it's going to allow us to be responsive to your questions and your problems. Okay, what other content is here? Well, there's a module, there's a block here for submitting assignments. Okay. Um, so all the assignments that I talked about, which are kind of named after the chapters, all these, we've got a bunch of coding assignments, and then we've got the final project. They all have an activity here. And essentially what you're doing is you're going to be creating code with PyCharm, and every assignment's going to be a PyCharm project, and PyCharm projects are just directories on your hard drive. And when you're done with creating your project, you're going to zip it up, and it becomes one zip file, and that's what you're going to submit to each of these. They're pretty easy to do. Okay. Um, Assignment solutions. So um, we publish assignment solutions right at the beginning of the class. So right before class, I go and publish the solution that we're going to talk about in the class, and that's the thing that we handed in from the week before. And one of the things that we're going to do, especially in the beginning of the semester, is we're going to put some substantial time into reviewing the solution and see how what you did was different from my official solution, and really talk about what differences are important and which are unimportant. And one of the nice things is that we'll see some very interesting idea from students in the class who maybe had some insight that none of the rest of us had. So at the beginning of the class, you'll be able to download the official class solution, and that will be available for the breakout group in which we compare solutions. Okay. So that's a Canvas page, right? All right, so let's go back to our slides and see where we're going now. So now we're going to review the weekly schedule, okay? And again, when we get to the weekly schedule, uh, we're also going to talk about, let's see, we do. Oh, you know what? I was supposed to create another slide in here for reviewing the roadmap, and I didn't. So next we're going to go to the roadmap, although there's no title slide for it. So the roadmap is the big picture, and there's a link to it in the weekly schedule under week one. Okay, so this is what we're doing in the semester. It's the same information that's in the weekly schedule, but it's summarized here. There's more information in the weekly schedule format, and the weekly schedule is going to be the authoritative one. Okay, but it's not as good as giving you the big picture, which is why I decided to create this course roadmap, which I hadn't done before. I'd done it for other courses that I teach, and I thought it'd be sort of a nice thing to have when I'm doing this introductory lecture. So, officially in a semester, a normal fall or spring semester, there are 17 weeks. Week 17 is always so the end of the final exam periods and graduation. Okay, so it's not a real week, but it is an official week of the semester. Okay, we typically use weeks 1 through 16. Okay, and we typically have a break week. The spring break is in week 9. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. Um, and we have a course startup week. That's week 1. This is the lecture for week 1, right? And we review the syllabus, we introduce ourselves, we do a lot of computing setup work. Okay, so when we see the weekly schedule for week 1, I'm going to show you a whole lot of things that I want you to do to set up your computer to be ready to do the assignments when we start. Okay. In week 2, we cover 3 chapters. Computing and programs, writing simple programs, and computing with numbers. And these are all introductory. Those are chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Zell book. Zell is our main textbook, and we'll see that when we get to the syllabus. Chapters 1 and 2 are really kind of getting you up to speed about what computers do and how programs work and that kind of stuff. Chapter 3, computing with numbers, is what I call the skills chapter. That's actually something where we learn things that aren't kind of general background things. Okay, this is the first of the skills chapters. So we've got 3 chapters to read, and we're going to have 3 assignments. So there's going to be a coding assignment for Zell Chapter 1, one for Zell Chapter 2, one for Zell Chapter 3. Okay, the assignments for chapters 1 and 2 are pretty modest. The one for Zell Chapter 3, that's getting it's getting close to the size of the typical one that we'll have for the week. As an in-class activity in week 1, you're going to introduce yourself in class. For week 2, we're going to have a breakout session where we'll be talking about what are your goals and expectations for programming. You know, there's quite a few people who get to this course who don't know yet what their goals and expectations are for programming. Somebody told them this would be a good course to take. Okay, so one of the first things that they're going to do as they're kind of learning about this stuff and talking to other people and listening is kind of forming their goals and their expectations for programming. So it's a good breakout, and we do that in week 2. And then we just keep marching through the book. And in week 3, we do sequences. Um, Python sequences include strings, uh, lists, and tuples, and ranges as well, I guess, and to a certain extent, files. Uh, so we talk about all these things. We cover to do that. The main thing that we're covering is Zell Chapter 5 and Severance Chapter 10. And in each of the class meetings, one thing we're going to do is we're going to review solutions. And certainly in the early days, that's going to take up a lot of our time. Usually, once that kind of settles down, we have time to do one other thing. Okay. And we've done a lot of things. Okay. We have the topic of the week to talk about, or maybe we have a group coding assignment to do. Okay, we typically have one breakout session in which we do either one thing, we review the solutions and then we report back, or we do two things. We review the solutions and we do the second thing. Okay, and that's just sort of a matter of how big the review the solution burden is for the week. Another thing that's going to come up here is we have a fair amount of reading to do. And we have, for each of these classes, I've recorded the lectures. Okay, and it turns out there are two kinds of lectures. There's a lecture that goes with the textbook. Okay, and there's a lot of overlap between the reading and the lecture, although I think my commentary adds a lot, but of course I would now, wouldn't I? And then I have some lectures that are in addition to the material that's in the textbook. They're called Beyond That Textbook. Okay, so you always have to play the lectures for Beyond the Textbook. As for how to handle the readings and the lectures, uh, uh, that have a lot of overlap, which are mostly the ones for the Zell chapters, right? Uh, you're going to come to decide what you want to do. I invite you to do the readings and play the lectures about the Zell chapters and see how you like that. Do you want to do both? Uh, do you want to do one instead of the other? This being a graduate course, in graduate school, we don't always lecture on the readings. Okay. Now I've lectured on most of the readings here, so you're going to get to choose the pattern of consuming this that works the best for you. Okay. Okay. So then we kind of march our way through the Zell book. So in week 4, we learn about functions in Zell chapter 6. In week 5, we learn about decision structures like if, else, and things like that in chapter 7. And week 6, we learned about loop structures and booleans in Zell chapter 8. And we'll have been doing programming loops before we get to this in Zell chapter 8, but there's a certain kind of this is a certain kind of a loop in Python called a while loop that we won't have covered yet. And that's most of what Chapter 6 is about. In Chapter 7, we're going to be doing data collections, including um, lists, um, dictionaries. And even though it's not covered in the chapter, we do some coverage in the beyond the textbook stuff of Python sets. The next week, we're going to cover regular expressions using Severance Chapter 11. Regular expressions are a little mini language that is typically implemented within other languages. And modern programming languages pretty much all have support for the regular expression language, and Python is no exception to that. And this feature is particularly good for searching for things in text files. So if you have to process a email server log, or you have to process a web server log. There may be millions of records. Okay, you definitely don't want to do that by hand. And the regular expression language is a really good way of expressing what you want to find in a really concise and useful way. So this is definitely a fun week. Spring break in week 9. Week 10 is simulation and design is what the title is of Zell Chapter 9, and definitely we cover those too. But the real theme here is how do you design, implement, and test more complex programs? Okay, and in the beginning of the semester, we write very simple programs, and they're getting more complex and more complex. And we kind of get to the height of that here in week 10 with this Zell Chapter 9. What people usually do when they teach this topic is we have you design and write game simulation programs. And I'm no exception to that. I think that's a great way to do it. So we do things like coin flip games, rock, paper, scissors games, dice games, those kind of things. And they turn out to be a great way to learn more complex programming because we're doing a number of things at once. We're simulating the game, we're figuring out how many players, we're keeping score in each of the rounds, we're keeping the round scores to see who won the game. And if you can handle that kind of complexity, which everybody seems to do by week 10, then you can design and write a complex program. In week 11, we cover object-oriented programming with chapter 14 from the Severance book. Python is an object-oriented language, and so all the values that we've been using all semester long are instances of Python objects that are created with Python classes. Typically, we'll have been using the classes that are built into Python or ones that I gave you that I wrote. What we're going to learn how to do here is how to design and implement our own custom classes. Now, this is a very big subject area, so we're just going to give you a start here. There are courses where you learn more about how to design and implement and test your own custom Python classes. One of the courses I mentioned before, IS430 PR, that's taught by John Weibel. That's something that they spend a particular amount of time on. but here we get you started. And then the last 2 weeks of the course, 12 and 13, uh, we're giving you the Python parts uh, that you would need to go on and do data science and AI kinds of things with Python. Okay, so there are 4 things that get used a lot, and we take a quick survey of them. They include Jupyter notebooks, uh, a Python package called NumPy, numerical Python, a Python package that gets a lot of use in data science called Pandas, very, very popular. And then plotting and visualization, which we do for the most part with a Python a package called matplotlib. But you can do some plotting that's implemented in matplotlib, but you can actually use the pandas interface to some plotting. So we're going to do some of that too. And what's kind of interesting is that these 2 modules, this week 12 and week 13, I share these with a course that I've been developing with Jenna Kim called Machine Learning Cloud, which Jenna and I are teaching in the spring of 2024. And so where this course ends in terms of Python, that's where that course begins. Okay, and then we're going to have a course wrap up, and then 2 weeks. So course wrap up for people who decided to be either because of their budget or how many credits they can afford to be using up on this course to take it for 2 credits. Well, they're done after this course wrap up. Okay, for people who've taken the course for 4 credits, which is by far the better deal in terms of the amount of work per credit, well, they still have the final project to do. Okay, so the final project, we're not working on it all the way through week 12 because we need to get Jupyter notebooks. The final project includes Jupyter notebooks, so we need to get that done in order to do the final project. So those who are working on the final project, all the 4 credit people, will be working on that. They can start in week 13 and then continue in 14, 15, and you hand it in at the end of week 16. And the final project is maybe a little bit bigger than 2 of these. I think it's about the size of 2 of the later coding assignments. Okay, so it's not gigantic. Okay, and it's a great way to solidify what you know. So again, if you signed up for this course for 2 credits and you'd like to do the final project and get 4 credits, well, I definitely support that. Just get the paperwork in and done long before the end of the semester, because I think it's a good experience and a good deal. Okay, so let's us go back. We reviewed the Canvas site. We didn't have a slide for the roadmap, but we went there anyway. Now we're going to review the weekly schedule. Okay, so pretty much that's the same information that I summarized in the roadmap. Okay, but here's where you can go to definitively find what we're doing for the week and find your way to all the content that you need to do it. Okay, so for the most part, when you go to the weekly schedule, you'll come to this index of weekly pages. So it's organized by week, and the week number is a link. You can see these are links. So to get to week 1, you click on link 1, and you're able to navigate around here with next and previous, right? And for the most part, each box of content represents some event that happens during the week. Okay, so there's a box for the class that happens on in week 1 that happens on Wednesday evening, January 17th, and then there's a box for Sunday morning where we have an optional lab session. And then there's the box for Sunday night when all the weekly assignments are due. Okay, so again, if you want to know what's due in week 1, well, just go to week 1 and find that content. Okay. So again, what are we doing associated with the class? Well, there are a bunch of recordings to play. The video that you're playing right now is what I'm going to put the link in for when we're done here. Okay. So we have topics, some indication what of our in-class activities are going to be, what the required readings are. Here for week 1, it's the syllabus and the roadmap. Recordings, required recordings. I'm expecting you to play these before class. Other resources, these are things that I don't always talk about. But for instance, one of our textbooks is available through the O'Reilly Media site. So how do you get there? Well, there's a link here to a page at the library, and it tells you how to get to the O'Reilly site, okay, and log in, right? And then typically, if we need to prep for some kind of in-class activity, I've got something to talk. I have something to tell you to prep for it, and here's the one for introduce yourself, which will be the big thing that we'll do in week 1. On Sunday from 10 to 11, we'll have an online lab. Okay, online labs are optional. Okay, come if you have a reason to come. If it's not something that you want to be part of, then you don't have to come. I say drop by to ask a question. It discusses solutions to previous assignments, get help with the current assignment, discuss the final project, or just to say hello. Use the headset when you come. Okay. There are some people who come every week. There's some people who only come when they have a problem at hand. There's some people who come from time to time just to see what's going on. I'm glad to see all of you. Quite a few times, what I do is I deal with people in turn, kind of first come, first serve. Sometimes by the time I get to people, well, their question's already been answered when I talk to somebody before them. Well, that's good too. Sometimes when we're looking at a coding problem that one of the students has, they can't see the error in it. I can't see the error in it. But one of the students who's in the session with us says something like, I think the error is on line number 42 where you've done this instead of that. And lo and behold, that's what's happened. So it's a really good experience for everybody. So we have these on Sunday mornings because the class is on Wednesday. I do sometimes have these lab sessions on Friday afternoons. Most of the people in this class are from the MS-LIS program. A lot of them have day jobs, so Friday afternoon's not particularly convenient. And also, It's pretty shortly after our class on Wednesday evening. The good thing about Sunday morning, I know that's inconvenient for some. It's definitely inconvenient for me. But the assignments are due on Sunday evening. So what I typically say is try the the coding assignment homework on Saturday, and then you'll know whether you need help. And if you need help, you can come on Sunday morning, and you have time to get it all done by Sunday night. Okay. Now, the other lab session that we have is at the end of our class on Wednesday evening. I usually classes are scheduled for 2 hours, but we don't use up the full two. And sometimes we do, but usually we're a little bit short of that. So at the end of the class, I turn the rest of the time into a lab session, and I can stay later if there are more people and they need more help. Okay. So one optional lab session at the end of class on Wednesday evening and then one on Sunday morning. And again, they're both optional. Okay. So you decide what you need. And then the weekly assignments are usually here on Sunday evening. And for week one, they're all computing setup things. So we want you to choose your computer, install Anaconda, update Anaconda, create an Anaconda virtual environment, install PyCharm Professional. Okay, well, that's a lot of work. And of course, there's a lot of content here. But I've got tutorials for you to play, tutorial videos for you to play. There are different versions for Windows and for Mac OS. You should be able to do this in a pretty straightforward way. If you get stuck on something, well, you've got two things that you can do, and this is true with technical things all semester long. If you're in a hurry and there's not going to be a lab soon, well, then open a ticket on the help desk. Okay, and we're pretty good at going back and forth on the tickets and kind of coaching you through. Okay, and then if you can do it in a lab, we'll do it in a lab. We generally have a good record of getting everybody unstuck in a fairly prompt way. Okay. Again, as little experience as you might have, we've had people like you in the course before. Uh, they've gotten stuck on things. We all get stuck on things. We get them unstuck, and everybody does particularly well. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the rest of the weeks here because I went through the weeks on the roadmap, but you can navigate your way through the schedule. And if you've got some questions in week two, let's go to week two. Uh, as part, I'm sorry, in week one, okay, we'll have a Q&A regarding the syllabus course expectations. So if you've got some questions about this or other things, bring them on Wednesday evening and we'll address them in the Q&A. All right. All right, so let's go back. We don't have too many more things left. That's weekly schedule. Okay, review the syllabus. I'm just going to walk through the syllabus and discuss the highlights. You're responsible for reading the entire thing and understanding it. Okay? Now, I've been teaching here a long time. And there are people who come to me in the end of the course or the middle of the course, and they've got some question that was addressed in the syllabus, and it becomes pretty obvious that they didn't read the syllabus. And or there are things that I talked about here in the introductory video, and it becomes pretty obvious that they didn't play it. Okay. Um, Well, so if you're somebody who didn't play this, well, you're not going to hear what I have to say now. But play the video, read the syllabus. Okay, there's a lot of detail there. One important area is this participation grading. In this particular course, participation counts for 10% of the grade. And all of the points that you earn for your participation, they all happen in class. Okay. And if you come to class and you uh, engage with the class, you're going to do particularly well on this participation grading. But history tells me that some people won't. Okay. So there is a link in the week one weekly schedule to a video in which I explain participation grading in detail. And it's not particularly long, so please do play that. Okay. So, the syllabus. I think I'm going to pause and I'm going to get the syllabus up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I found the syllabus, a good PDF copy of it. So the stuff at the top, we've already talked about the name and the number of the course, the instructor, that's me, the TA is Yilu Tang. Again, I've worked with Yilu at least 3 times on this course. This is maybe the fourth. The distinction between 4 credit and 2 credit enrollment is only the final project. And the final project is not giant. Okay? Again, it's about the size, it's maybe just a hair bigger than 2 of the coding assignments that we do. So, proportionately, it's a much better deal to take the course for 4 credits, unless you're trying to conserve either your funds or your credits. Okay. And if you've registered for 2 and you want to take it for 4, there's a form somewhere. You can get pointed to that by your advisor, and then you fill that out. And when I get the paperwork for it, I just approve it. The only issue is don't wait too long to get that done. Okay, don't wait till the end of the semester to do that. Classes online Wednesdays from 7 to 9. Optional lab sessions are going to be at the end of class on Wednesday and on Sunday morning at 10. Okay, and come by and check that out. Okay. Office hours. Neither Yulu nor I hold conventional open office hours. And so we're going to expect you to, when you need some help, to open a ticket on the help desk and or come to the labs. But if you need individual meetings, either for privacy or some other reasons, just open a ticket and ask for one, and we'll set one up on Zoom. The information about contacting us is the same here as I went over on Canvas. Okay, and you need to use the help desk. Okay, we're not going to be responding to regular emails or messages on Canvas, so don't waste your time with either of those. Um, I'm going to leave you to read both the catalog description and the course description. Um, and I'm going to try to summarize this. Okay. This is the first course in programming. Okay. And this is either for people who have had no programming before or haven't had programming in a long time. Okay. Um, and and so there are some people who have a little more experience than others. I don't assume that people have any experience at all. Okay. So you could easily be a person who can't program their television or their microwave. Okay. Never mind write Python programs. And you're fine. You've come to the right course. Okay. This is a hands on course in which you're going to learn about programming. You're going to learn how to think about programmers, think about problems like a programmer. You're going to learn how to design, code, and test programs, and you're going to learn about uh, how to do things in a programming kind of way. You're going to learn enough about Python that if you want to go on and take a data science or one of these AI courses, you should know all the Python basics that you ought to be able to handle the Python there. Like they might be teaching you about new libraries and they'll definitely be teaching you new tools and techniques, but there won't be things where you go, well, you know, what kind of Python's that, right? We'll have shown you enough and you'll have practiced enough that you ought to go there and have some confidence. Okay. Um, the topics are just the things that we went through in the roadmap, and those are chapters from the textbooks. Um, the learning outcomes, a lot of things I talked about. Understand the role of programming. Uh, Identify opportunities to use programming to solve everyday problems. Design, code, and test programs. Uh, Design, code, and test simple object-oriented classes in Python. And use PyCharm. PyCharm is an integrated development environment. It's a really nice tool that we're going to use for programming. Required text. Okay. The only text that you need to buy is the Zell text. There's no free version of that available, and that's our main text. The severance text is purchasable, but there's free versions of it available both online at this website and through the O'Reilly site. Okay. Uh, the McKinney book, which is what we're working on in weeks 12 and 13, is again, you could buy a printed copy of it, but there's a free version of it at the O'Reilly site. And there's a link in the week one weekly schedule to a library, an Illinois library page where that show you the details of how to get logged on the O'Reilly site if it's your first time. Technology requirements, we're expecting you to have a computer for your use. For many people, that's a laptop, but because this is an online course, you could use a desktop, I guess. Uh, we want to use a current version of Windows or Mac OS, okay? And here's what I mean by current version, okay? In Windows, Windows 11 would be best, but Windows 10 is okay. Okay. In Mac OS, the latest Mac OS release is, I forget what it's called. Maybe it's called Sonoma. Let's look. Let's see what I have. Yeah, Sonoma. Okay. And this is a pretty new laptop, so it's able to install it. Now, my other laptop, my personal laptop, is an older Mac, and it won't install Sonoma. Um, I'm sure that there are people who've got Windows computers that won't support Windows 11. So it's okay to have older stuff as long as you've updated the operating system to take all the updates that it can take. Okay. Um, when you begin to install the software, that's the first thing that we're going to ask you to do, and apply all the operating system updates that are available to you. And if you have a slightly older computer, that maybe isn't going to give you the latest and greatest. Maybe that's not going to give you Windows 11, or maybe that's not going to give you Mac OS Sonoma. But just the approach that we talked about seems to work for everybody. Um, so the details of what you need to install are in the weekly assignments for week 1. We're going to be using those tools to do our work in week 2. There's no hand in from those installs. So what if you went one day into week 2? Would that be the end of the world? No, probably not. But pretty soon in week 2, you're going to want to be using that stuff. Okay. Um, I do say, and when I talk about the computers, if you want to use a Linux client laptop, uh, you can. Um, we're not going to be able to support you that well. So at least give me the opportunity to talk you out of that before you do it. Okay. But if you're a hotshot and you can support yourself, well, that'll probably work too. There's a link here to the course schedule. Okay. We've already seen that. Course elements. So we've got the readings. Okay. So if you're doing the readings, you should do them before we meet for class. Okay. We've got lecture videos. Okay. And they come in 2 flavors. They have the ones that are about the textbook chapters, and there's the one things called beyond the textbook. You definitely, between the lecture videos for the textbook chapters and reading the textbook, uh, there are some people who do one. There are some people who do the other. There are some people who do both. You read and you play and you figure out what works. In terms of beyond the textbook, if you don't play this, you're going to be missing content that's not available elsewhere in the course. Okay. Tutorial videos. Well, we've got 2 types of these. Like the installation activities for week 1 have a lot of tutorial videos. And then when we get to these coding assignments, in a lot of the weeks, I have a tutorial for you to play before you do the exercise that you're going to do. Again, I recommend that you play them because I think that they are helpful. Uh, the coding assignments, we're going to do them every week. Some weeks we're going to do 2. One week we do 3. Okay. Um, uh, we're going to create in each of those. We're going to create a PyCharm project. And a PyCharm project is really just a directory on your hard drive. And so what you'll be doing is you'll be zipping that up and submitting the zip file to Canvas. Okay. I'll talk about our grading deal on coding assignments when I get down to grading. Okay. So I'll talk about that. The final project is an individual assignment. It's not a group assignment, and it's maybe just a hair bigger than 2 coding assignments, 2 of the big ones that we have towards the end of the course. Doing the final project and taking the course for 4 credits. Um, the project is a good review of the course. Okay, it's a coordinated set of exercises. It would be like something that you would do in the workplace. Okay, and uh, again, taking the course for 4 credits in terms of the workload is a pretty good deal, and it's what I recommend. Um, Attendance at iSchool classes is required. Of course, we understand that there are extenuating circumstances. Participation is a big deal, okay? And a substantial part of your grade, 10%, is going to come from these things that you're going to be doing in class, introducing yourself in the first class meeting, making speaking contributions in class, making chat contributions in class, actively participating in the breakout sessions during class, and speaking for your group after the breakout session. And how do we grade this? Well, I keep notes. I've got a little pad here and I write down. Uh, it's sort of a pain to have to write all this down, but I write it down and in the end I add it up and um, we grade the participation. So for people who really want to engage with the class, participation grading is a pretty good deal. It's pretty favorable. But for people who somehow are finding it hard to engage with the class, you can lose a lot of points, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more on grading. I've got this whole section that comes after this called course grading policies. And it's pretty long. I think it's got about 14 items in it. And my joke is it's about as long as the contract for a lease car. Um, Maybe a lease car would have 28 items on it, but still, it's long. And when I started to teach here, I didn't have this section at all. Unfortunately, we'd get to the end of the semester and people would have problems and questions about the way the grading worked where they misunderstood. Okay. And so now I've got 14 things here for you to read your way through, and I'd like you to read them. Um, uh, that really explain, in pretty practical terms, how the grading is going to be done. One important thing that is highlighted here and I'm pointing out is uh, when we get to the end of the course, I usually have some people who come in and go, "Oh, you know what? If I got more on this instead of getting an A minus, I'd be getting an A." We're not going to be adjusting things. We're not going to be doing extra credits. The only things that we're going to be doing is rounding scores to whole numbers. Okay. Now, we do have a way, if you do get a grade on an assignment and you think that we missed your work, this is like, did they really look at that? Because I think I had everything there. Okay. You can make a request for regrading by opening a ticket on the help desk. And so we'll look at things. But, the rationale of if you can give me 2 more points, um, I'll get an A. Uh, uh, to me, that's like listening to Donald Trump saying, I need you to find me 11,000 votes. No, we just do rounding. That's all we do. So read this section. There is this item at 11 talks about the grading deal for these coding assignments. It applies to the coding assignments, not to the final project. Um, so we're going to review the solutions in class. Okay. That means I'm going to hand out the official class solution. Now, is it a perfect one? No, but it's a good one. Okay. So if you if you hand your thing in late, you'll have the benefit of seeing that and been part of the discussion. Okay. Well, then that makes things a lot easier. Okay. So if you hand in your work on time, okay, um, and you do make a good faith effort on all parts, and you follow the directions about what to name things and how to hand them in. If you follow all that, including handing in on time, the minimum score that you'll get on these coding assignments is an 85. If you don't hand them in on time, you can't get more than 84. There's no reason to hand in anything late. Okay. Barring some excusable thing like uh, serious illness or unusual extenuating circumstances. But, the idea of like, well, if I could work on this another 2 weeks, I could get a better score. Well, no, you can't get a better score because if you make a good faith effort and you follow the directions and you hand it in on time, you'll get a minimum of 85. And if you wait for 2 weeks and try to do a better job, you're going to get an 84 or lower. Okay. So we want you to hand it in on time and then be there, be part of the discussion when we get to class. That's where a lot of the learning goes on. This is the last semester that I'm going to be treating the work that we're doing on in weeks 12 and 13 as sort of experimental. We introduced this content last summer, so this will be the third time I'm teaching it. So what we're going to do with this is if the scores that you get on these 4 assignments improve your grade, well, then we're going to count them. And if they don't improve your grade, then we're not. Okay. And I'm making a few adjustments in the assignments and I'm still kind of calibrating them. But this will be the last time I offer this kind of deal. Here's the details on the participation grading scheme. I'm not going to talk about this in detail because if you play that other video, and the link is right under the link for this one in the weekly schedule, it'll do a better job of explaining it than I will here. Academic integrity policies and practices specific to this course. Okay. We need you to do your own work yourself. Okay. Now, there is one thing when you do the install for PyCharm Professional, which is the tool that we're going to be used to doing our coding. I show you in the tutorial how it has this pretty aggressive auto completion feature. So it has a single line auto completion feature in which it does pretty good at guessing about what you're trying to type or what you might want to type. You're allowed to take all that single line auto completion help that you want. Okay. We're not going to use, for instance, a PyCharm has a service you can buy that will give you an AI coding assistant. You shouldn't be using that on your assignments. I don't think it's a good way to learn. Okay. It makes it suggests some interesting code, but sometimes it suggests some inappropriate code. Quite often it suggests some inappropriate code. We're going to limit ourselves to just single line auto completion. In terms of that, you can talk about your work with other people. You can go to resources. You can go to textbooks, ChatGPT. You can go to tutorial sites. You can go to Stack Overflow. You can go to all those places, but you need to, having done all that, you need to turn around and write the code yourself and type it in yourself. That's where the learning is going to go on. Okay? And don't give your code to somebody else, because if you both hand in the same code, you're both going to have an academic integrity violation. Okay? Um, let's see. So for 4 credit students, participation, well, for 4 and 2, participation is 10% of the final grade. Uh, for 4 credit students, the coding assignments are 45% of the grade, and the final project is 45% of the grade. For 2 credit students, the coding assignments are 90% of the grade. Again, the 4 credit setup is, I think, a good deal. Uh, we have a table here that shows you how we convert number grades to letter grades. Somebody gave me this when I came to the iSchool in 2008, and I've never changed it. Okay, and then the only thing I want to emphasize here is that uh, the only thing that we do when I calculate all the grades is I round. So each one of the coding assignments and the final project and the participation grades, they get rounded to whole numbers. And then we combine all those grades, and then we round that to a whole number. And of course, these are all whole numbers, and whatever whole number you come to, that's the grade that you get. It's unfortunate if that comes to a an 86 and you wanted a B plus at 87, or that comes to a 92 and you wanted an A at 93. The rounding is all it's going to be. There's not going to be any extra credit. There's not going to be any of that other stuff. Um, the very last part of the syllabus is both um, to be expected on one hand, but it's very important stuff. So to be expected. It's what we call in the legal profession, they call this boilerplate. These are the kind of provisions that go into every contract of this type. They're all exactly the same. Okay. Well, this is true for syllabi. Okay. So if you take other courses at the iSchool, you might have seen every word of this already. Okay. And if you saw it and you read it and you understand it, well, that's great. Okay. But I just want to point out this is really important stuff. So if you haven't seen and read and understood it, then please do. Okay. Because we talk about how hard it is to get incomplete grades, uh, what uh, what we mean by academic integrity, how serious we are about this being an inclusive environment for learning, what you can do about religious observances, uh, what you can do about the need for accessibility in learning, and then finally, uh, provisions related to COVID. Okay. Now, uh, if you've got questions or you need help in any of these categories, simply come to me. If I'm not the person to help, I'll point you to the person who can help. Okay? But make sure you understand all of these. All right? So that's the syllabus. Let's go back to our slides. Okay. And just the wrap up. Okay. Um, so please get started on the work that's in our weekly schedule for week one. Um, Before we meet for our first class, uh, make sure that you do the things for the class. Okay, so read the syllabus, do all those things. Um, and then before the end of the week, do all those things in the weekly assignments. The installs look harder than they are. Okay, so don't put that off. Get started and get that done. And then I'm going to meet you on Wednesday night, January 17th. I'm really looking forward to it. And that's going to be it for now. And I'm going to say bye until then. Bye bye.